Hey, it's Cody. If you saw the title of this video, then you already know what I'm going to be talking about. Today, I have some questions. Um, I want to start out and say I'm not trying to be a bitch about this, okay? I'm genuinely asking a question. Well, several of them. And I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way, okay? If you are one of these people that I'm asking questions of, I'm genuinely curious, and if it seems rude, I'm sorry. All right, feel free to make me a video explaining it, or type in the comments. Let me know. Yeah. All right. So launching right into it, I have my notes here because I can't remember shit. I wanted to talk about personification of decks. Now I'm a person who personifies my decks. They all have their little personalities, their energies that are coming off of them. And okay, that was just natural to me. I didn't learn that anywhere. No one said your decks have personalities. For me, it came naturally. I tend to approach witchcraft and spirituality and all that stuff from an animistic sort of lens. So I guess it just made sense. That was even before I had the word animism to try and describe it. But to me, it was just natural. However, I feel like it's been the last couple of years, well, more than a couple, but since the rise of tarot readers on YouTube and things like that, I've noticed that there are people who don't personify their decks. And I literally couldn't give less of a shit what you do, but I've noticed kind of a smugness surrounding it. They'll be like, oh, people who personify their decks. And that's just such a weird stance to have. I feel like it's preposterous. As if all of this shit's not preposterous. That's just feels like such a weird place to draw a line. The fact that somebody is trying to learn about themselves or the future or something by looking at a fucking deck of cards is not an issue, but if they feel like that deck of cards has personality traits, that's too far. I don't get it. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to do before I unleash all of my questions, I guess, it's not the first thing, obviously I've already been talking for 3 minutes, is I have 7 decks here, that have personalities. And so I guess I just wanted to show them. This is going to be backwards. I film all these on my phone camera and facing toward me so I can make sure that my stuff is in the frame. And it won't let me, maybe some people's phones will let them flip the picture, but mine doesn't, so you're going to be looking at these backwards. Alright, so I feel for the most part, these are pretty well-known decks. They're not going to be anything weird. Alright, the first deck that is very much a deck with a personality is... what the fuck is this called? Deviant Moon. Okay, please ignore the absolutely fucking horrendous job I did of trimming this. This deck has got jokes. Alright, this is a trickster sort of deck. If I ask this deck a really serious question, it's always going to sort of give me a smart-ass answer, right? So if I'm actually really upset about something, I'm not gonna go to this because it's not just an asshole, it's also laughing at me. Does that make sense? I love this deck. This was one of the first tarot decks, when did this come out? 2012 or something like that? That I really feel I connected with. The little, even the little white book that comes actually, sorry, I keep my heart keeps dipping. The little white book, the meanings tend to skew negative. And I really like that about it. I feel it was something I could grab onto. And so for me, this deck may be a little bit pessimistic, a little bit scathing. And it just has to do with the way the artwork is drawn. It's just, this deck has that kind of personality to me. Alright, next I have, this is Oak, Ash, and Thorn. This deck is asking a child a question. It has a sort, Look at that. God damn phone camera. It has this innocence to it. Like, if you spent time around kids, you'll know that for all the ridiculousness, they know a surprising amount of shit. And sometimes it can kind of help you strip away things that your older, jaded self has sort of put in place. You know what I mean? To hear it from the mouths of babes, right? So if this deck is, it feels like asking a child something. Alright, next we've got, this deck is a weird one in my collection. This is the Fountain Tarot. So, I got this back when it was indie. This is not the current mass market version. I don't know if anything's different, but this deck has a very, like, cold and far away sort of feel. Like, this deck feels like this guy. Like, if I were asking a question, he's gonna give me maybe, like, an analytical sort of answer. It's probably gonna be somewhat devoid of emotion. Something about this deck just sort of puts distance between myself and it. I don't know how else to say that. It's okay. I said cold, not as in like, well, I don't know. Okay, but if I were asking, I don't know how to fucking explain this, right? If you have this deck, I think you know what I mean. Like, it has 100% a personality. Next, this is the Star Child Tarot. It's the Akashic edition. I don't know. I know there's a bunch of, like, editions of it and shit. Okay, so I'm gonna trade hands here. For this one, oh no, just kidding, I'm not. This is like talking to a spacey sort of friend. One that, your answer is gonna be kind of vague. It might be adjacent to the question that you ask them, but it won't be a direct answer. Like, you've got to have patience for this one, you know, or maybe somehow their answer, like, in a roundabout way ends up connecting back. But as soon as you've asked the question, you don't really feel necessarily like your question has been answered. It doesn't give you that, like, satisfying thing. You look back later and be like, oh my god, that's what they meant. I don't know why I literally cannot keep my arm right here. What the fuck? Okay, this, it's like airy, it's spacey, you know people like that, alright? Maybe they're just always high as fuck. Okay, next is the Somnia Tarot. This one has something like, almost physically cold feeling about it. I'm gonna move these over. Sorry. The table that I film these on is a little sewing machine table where the sewing machine, like, folds into it. And it's really too small for all the shit that I do on it. Alright, Somnia Tarot. It's gonna give me an answer, but, like, okay, this deck it feels sad. Like, it's a depressed friend. Its voice sounds like Eeyore. And it will tell you things, but, like, in the most depressing way possible. Like, and not like funny depressing, like, actually, like, actually depressing. Which I am in the mood for sometimes. To me, that's just how it is. Again, very airy, but also very watery. But, like, yeah, it's the colors used, it's the shoreline and the cloudy skies, and just the way that all of this is set up gives off a personality to me. Alright, what else do we have here? Okay, I've got two more. This is Tarot of the Abyss? Yeah, Tarot of the Abyss. This deck is very, very straightforward. It will tell you things that will make you sad. It's the blunt friend. You know, the person you know is not gonna bullshit you. This won't give you a gentle answer. Alright, the last one. This one is like grandma energy, and that's the Herb Crafter's Tarot. It's something about it just feels so old and, like, not necessarily ancient, but just the kind of thing that's been passed down for generations. The knowledge that it's, like, patiently willing to share with you, to show you how to do things, to give you advice. This is a very warm reading deck to me. Like, it just feels very kind. Like, it's not gonna bullshit you. Something about it reminds me of my grandma. When I was pregnant the first time, I was terrified that I was not going to survive childbirth. And my mother and all kinds of people were like, oh, it's not that bad. Oh, it's not, whatever. But my grandmother said to me, I was like, oh, what if I die in childbirth? She's like, oh, you won't, but you'll wish that you would. The way that I got, like, the truth from that made me feel like she was taking my concerns seriously. Like, I don't know, alright? Okay, so all that was to just show you my decks that I feel like have personalities. And again, like I said at the beginning of the video, I don't give a single shit if you personify your decks, or if you don't. I guess it's just the smugness that makes me kind of be like, what's happening? And I'm not calling out anyone specific, like, I don't even know, but it just every once in a while, like, I just watch videos as they come up, like, on my YouTube feed, or whatever that little homepage thing is where it shows things that it thinks that you might be into. So, and yeah, sometimes people are like, oh, well, I'm not one of those people that personifies their decks. Alright, so, okay. The first, these might be in a bad order. There was kind of not a good order for these. My question is, witchcraft and divination, specifically, I feel like is looking past and beyond what everyone else looks at things and sees. You know, so whereas someone who doesn't practice witchcraft, or, you know, read cards, or divining shit, they would look and just be like, yeah, that's a deck of cards, or like, it's nice artwork or something. But as a witch, reading the cards, to me, personally, part of it is seeing energies and feelings and stories beyond the cards. Like, past the artwork, there is meaning. Does that make sense? And so I feel like I'm not really sure what kind of a reading I would get from somebody who didn't feel like their deck was connected, like, to something, some humanity sort of thing. Like, I don't know how to explain what I'm saying. Okay, so another one is, okay, this is gonna sound really weird. Do people who don't personify tarot decks work with crystals? Now, okay, I'm asking this because I don't feel like these things are that different. Now, you might say, well, crystals are formed in the earth, they have, like, different energy. Okay, my question, though, is what about the ones that aren't? Unfortunately, a lot of crystals that you can buy places are actually lab created. So if you have, say, a lab created smoky quartz, or one that came from the earth, do you even know? Like, do you still get energy from that? Or, like, opalite, goldstone, yeah. Those are glass. Those are both just man-made glass. So do those have, like, energy, like, and feelings? And even things like, the kind of orangey citrine, that's just amethyst that maybe wasn't the best coloring, and so it is heated to really high temperatures. It turns out that kind of orangey color that's actually not the color the citrine is. Or any angel aura, or like aura kind of thing. Those are heated with different metals that adhere to the surface of the crystal. So, I mean, if the energetic signature of something is specific to coming from the earth, then I guess I'm trying to, okay, my brain is like, has questions, but the words are not happening. Those crystals don't count though, right? Or like, the human intent, I feel like, behind the artwork is a very important part of a deck, right? And I'm not sure how people don't see a personality there. To each their own. I'm not, like, trying to be smug or something. I'm honestly trying to understand what's happening. And also, a strange thing is a lot of these people have a lot of decks. Um, like, I guess why would you have more than one deck if it's just a deck of cards, right? Like, what's the purpose of having another one? For this video, I don't know if you noticed or not, I chose only tarot decks because oracles can sort of have different approaches, you know, that would make them, much more, I don't know. I feel like it makes their personalities even more different. Um, but I chose only tarot decks just to show you the way that I see them as different personalities. Even though, I mean, really, it's like a Four of Wands is a Four of Wands. I don't necessarily think that. I take into account the guidebook, the artwork, the colors. You know, it to me, it just feels different. So, I guess underscoring all of this, my main question is like, what's the framework of belief in using a tarot deck that doesn't have like an energetic personality, right? Like, how does that fit into doing other things? Like, people have, we've got color associations, we've got crystal associations, things like that. And so I feel like it ends up giving it a personality. And I feel like most people do personify their decks. I'm just curious about the people that don't. And I would love to know what's like, what does the practice outside of, I mean, if you have a practice outside of, you know, reading the tarot, what does that look like? Like, what are the underlying beliefs in that, if it makes sense? Um, Again, it feels like a weird place to draw the line of preposterousness when we're talking about some of these things. So yeah, I guess that's really all I wanted to say. I'm asking questions, okay? I showed you my decks with personalities, and if no hate to anyone who doesn't think their deck has their decks have personalities. But I'm just curious as to how everything orbiting that sort of works. So if you've watched until now, if you've been following this ramble, thanks for watching. Bye.